Hello and welcome back to Read Becca. This is my weekly catch-up on everything I read, everything I'm currently reading, and everything I'm looking forward to reading. So I've read several things this week. I liked all of them, so that it was a good reading week. I don't have a ton to say about most of these though, so I think we'll run through this pretty quick. I have to preempt myself here that I might have to pause because you start a channel and you say, I'll never do the thing that people do, or they apologize for outside noise and stuff. And then you kind of have to. So I might have to pause because my association changed our lawn service, and for some odd reason, they have decided that Saturday is a good day for the lawn care to get done. So they keep coming by, and it is so loud outside my window that you cannot hear. So if so, I will try to pause it. But anyway, let's get into the books. The first one is An Elderly Lady Must Not Be Crossed by Helene Tursten and translated by Marlaine Delargy. This is the second book in the Elderly Lady is Up to No Good series, or that's the first book. Maud is a very elderly lady. She's almost 90, and she just kills people. So I actually read this on audio, but I saw the physical at the library when I was picking up something else this morning, and I had to grab it so you could see this. This is just an adorable little tiny naked hardback with like embroidery for the cover, and that's how the first book was as well. And it's just so small and cute. And both of these were told in a series of vignettes, basically. So the first one, she's just an old lady who's killing people kind of around her that do things that she doesn't really like, and they can't get on her bad side. This one has kind of the same sort of theme, but it lacked a little bit of the charm of the first one because about half of it is flashbacks to her as a young person. And so it doesn't have that elderly lady part. So she has a very clear sense of justice that we get from that first half, though, that we didn't quite get in the first book. So as we're hearing things she did as even a young girl that were all about her kind of moral code and getting justice for other people that were getting harmed, that led to her being able to realize I can get away with this. I can do these things and kind of trick people. And so as an old lady, what is so enjoyable is seeing her really play up how she's elderly and weak and all of that and get away with things. But that doesn't come into play until the second half. So all of this is then framed with her taking a trip to Africa. So she's Swedish, so she's going from Sweden to Africa, and she loves Africa. She's been there before. She likes to travel. She likes to be alone, even though she loves travel. But we're seeing her have these dreams on the plane where she's flashing back, and then we're seeing her actually travel and have a safari in Africa. So the present, I think, and the things that were happening in the present at the second half were much more interesting than the flashback stories in the first half for me. So it wasn't as good as the first, but I enjoyed it. It was definitely worth reading. So the next one that I had is Save Me the Plums by Ruth Reichel. And Reichel was a food writer, I think, at the New York Times. She's very well known for her food writing, and then went on at the start of this to be offered a job as editor at Gourmet magazine. And so this is really recounting her experience of running Gourmet for pretty much the entire 2000s. So she went through things like 9/11 happening and their office being in Times Square, and the rise of the internet for magazines, and then that being kind of the downfall of magazines and the magazine actually closing down at the end. So kind of start to finish, she had a massive evolution over this career. But what I really love about this, and I love it in both fiction and nonfiction, is that this is really a story about her surrounding herself with incredibly skilled people and encouraging them in their passion. So I loved that aspect, and it just is really passionate about food. The descriptions of food will make you very hungry. So I don't have a ton to say about this. This is just her memoir about the experience of having that job and running the magazine and seeing its successes. I think one of the most interesting things for me was hearing how she brought in famous writers like Junot Diaz and David Foster Wallace. I had no idea that Consider the Lobster was written based on Gourmet having sent David Foster Wallace to Lobster Fest to do a story for them, and that's what it turned into. So she does talk quite a bit about that in here, and that was really interesting. If you don't know, that's kind of a think piece, I guess. I don't know what to call it. Where he talks about the ethics of food, and that has really changed, fundamentally changed how people treat food and humane treatment of lobsters. That's something where at the time it was completely normal to just put in a live lobster in the boiling water, and now that has moved toward, even on cooking shows, you will see people say, oh no, you can't do that, that's not humane, right? So obviously, that's not vegetarian, vegan friendly for sure. It's not in line with that, but that raised so many questions about the ethics of food and eating meat. And she talks about having conversations that spun off from that with family members and stuff, and the decision to put that into a magazine that might really cause problems for the readers. So yeah, she made some really controversial choices, and I just really loved hearing about that. So really enjoy this one as well. And the last finish, and I absolutely love this one, was The Beauty by Aliya Whiteley. I was stunned by this. I had mentioned, I can't remember if it was in last week's video or in my TBR, that I thought this was going to be a new favorite author, and completely delivered. So let me read the first sentences of this. To start, there are signs. I don't care what William says. There are signs of change, of regeneration, and I saw the first mushrooms in the graveyard on the morning after I ripped up the photograph of my mother's face and threw the pieces over the cliff into the fat, swallowing folds of the sea. Timing is everything. So you can get that sense of what is going to happen, what is going on here, where we are following this character Nathan, who is the storyteller for a group of men who, it's clear in the before times that they were kind of Luddites as it was, and so they're surviving and doing well agriculturally in a time that is kind of dystopian. There has been an outbreak of some sort, and all the women died. And so we're starting from that point where now Nathan, who is a young man, has stumbled upon the fact that there are these fungi growing in the shape of women, as on the cover, where all the women died. And so I don't really want to say much more about the plot than that. I think it is so brilliant. This does a lot of things that we've seen in kind of gender role dystopias, that sort of plot, where it's not that's not going to blow you away. What is so amazing is the execution. So it's smart in the telling that we've got this Nathan character who is a storyteller, who is mythologizing the women, and each time he, something will happen, and then he will tell the story of it happening that night around the fire with the men, and we get almost, it reminded me of reading Genesis every time he did that. The cadence to his storytelling does. And so it's almost like he's giving a creation myth for what's happening to them. Sorry, I can't remember what I was saying. I had to go rescue things from being knocked over by Rue. So I think I was talking about Nathan and his storytelling. So when he is telling these stories, he is then framing them in a way that pushes the men toward the moral of the story he wants them to take away. So it's really interesting. I love that aspect. The prose is gorgeous. It's not purple or overly flowery. It's rich in the kind of way you want to take a bite out of it, if that makes any sense. So I love the way it was written. But I think most importantly about the execution that is so well executed is the believability. So this is not going to blow you away in terms of the plot being groundbreaking, but the reactions and the responses of the men to what's going on, and the difference in response between men, is so believable and real and true that it was so effective. So I loved that. I think at the beginning I was in doubt for sure, because there is this whole element where it really leans into the womb being integral to womanhood, and beyond that, like very reproductive, nurturing motherhood as integral to womanhood. And then I had to realize that we're in this perspective of solely men. And so that's where it's coming from, and it really turns that on its head. So then the conversation of this piece is about, is womanhood defined by use to men? And what does it mean when a man's use becomes those uses? Yeah, and I don't think I can say more than that, but I loved it. It was so good. So you can imagine my sheer horror. Oh, speaking of horror, so this I was kind of billed as horror. I wouldn't say it's total horror. It's definitely got some violence. It's got some body horror elements, but it's really like psychological for the most part. So it didn't gross me out at all. Okay, so I got this far, and that was the end, because as you see, it says plus a new short story, which is not such a short story. It's actually just a novella. So this has 2 novellas in it. So the second novella was Peace Pipe, and it's like peace comma pipe, not peace pipe. And I love that one as well. It's so good. It was, again, complete my catnip. It's a sci-fi story, and we're following a narrator who I think is unnamed. There are no like indicators of gender either, so we don't know who the narrator really is. But this narrator has come back from some disastrous situation and is being put into quarantine. And we don't really know what that is. We slowly uncover the details of this disaster over the course of the story. And this person is a negotiator, like a communicator for first contact with aliens. And so this has a massive linguistic element, which is something I love. So this person is in quarantine, and as they are hearing the pipe gurgling in the wall, they realize it is sentient. And so during this quarantine, they begin establishing first contact and a language to communicate with the pipe. And that is the story. Yeah, I loved it. It's all about the importance of language in communication, and even more importantly, miscommunication and conflict. Yeah, linguistic sci-fi is a huge love of mine. So yeah, I loved both of these. They were amazing. So definite new favorite. Loved it. I will be picking up just about anything by this author. So that is what I read this week, and I picked up my big chonky Appleseed by Matt Bell. I have just hopped into this, and it's very weird, as expected. It's got 3 timelines. One seems to be historical, like a frontier settler type of thing. They're literally like Johnny Appleseed. We have 2 brothers who are planting apples all over. And one of them is a faun, like F-A-U-N, not F-A-W-N. So that's interesting. And then we have a near future after like a climate disaster. We're following a person who is like rewilding things. And then we have a far future that I don't know too much about, but it's clear there's a link to one of the previous timelines. So yeah, very interesting, very odd, and I think I'm enjoying it so far, but I don't know yet. And on ebook, I'm also reading still Miss Percy's Guide to the Care and Feeding of British Dragons. Really enjoying that one. And I think I am going to finish finally my short story collection, Boys, Beasts, and Men by Sam J. Miller. And also really enjoying that. It's a fantastic short story collection, I think. So I think I am probably going to have a lot of outside time because it's nice today and we're supposed to get rain tomorrow. I need to do some gardening finally now that it's not freezing. And I also really want to start a puzzle this weekend. So I think I'm going to find a big chunky tome to listen to on audiobook and really get stuck into that while I do other stuff. So that is kind of my plan for the weekend. I do have a long weekend this weekend. It's very odd. My job set things up so we no longer have an official holiday, but we get a floating day to use at any other time for some reason for this particular holiday. Usually they're very good about holidays, but who knows? So anyway, I do have Monday off, so it's going to be a very reading-filled long weekend. Very, very chill. I really need a relaxation weekend, I think. I had a really rough week in terms of work stuff. It was not busy, but the stuff that was happening was just awful. And I was not feeling well. So I don't know what was going on, but I was having like a fever and just like waves of complete exhaustion. Like I fell asleep in my chair, in my armchair at like 4:30 in the afternoon when I was kind of supposed to be wrapping up work. And like just very weird, like needed to take naps every day. Tests were all negative and everything. So it was not anything too terribly serious, probably just a standard flu, but really knocked me out energy wise. So I need a low-key weekend this weekend. So I don't think I really have very much to talk about otherwise. I think it was a good week other than being completely wiped out. I did really struggle with reading. So almost everything that I read here was either last weekend or on audio, as I said, with an elderly lady. So yeah, that was about my week. Very, very quiet otherwise. In terms of recommendations, watching stuff. I did get through Bridgerton. Oh, I completely forgot. Because it was a very low-key week and I didn't really want to do anything. I watched through all of season 2 of Bridgerton and I really enjoyed it. I'm really debating reading the books because the first one I know has major problems for me. The second one that would align with this book, I think. Now, it was massive on miscommunication and I hate that. So I have wanted to read the books thinking I could just skip the first one, and now I am not so sure. But I just love the execution of the show. It's beautiful. It's really well done. I didn't like the miscommunication, but I think I liked this season better than the first. So it was a mix. It was definitely completely transportive and entertaining and like hit the spot for what I wanted this week. So I also watched the documentary Flea. Greg from Supposedly Fun had mentioned it because it was up for animated and documentary film for the Oscars this year. And I liked it. I think it was really, really well done. As I said, it's a documentary, but it is animated to protect the identity of the person that they're interviewing. And this person is an Afghani refugee to Denmark, I want to say. I'm pretty sure it's Denmark. I think it's like a Danish language film too, so it's in translation. But as a teenager, he was taken as a refugee and also is gay. So he was hiding that part of his identity as well. And he grew up kind of solitary as this teenager in a foreign country. And the person who is the documentarian interviewing him is a friend of his from high school, basically. So they established this friendship. And that's what led to this documentary being made. So it's really cool, and the format is innovative, I would say, because it's animation of their actual interview. It is animation of him telling his backstory as a child and what he went through in Afghanistan. And then there's actual like video news clips and stuff. So it's really very different from anything I've seen before in kind of that space. So I think that's one, like, you guys should definitely check it out if you are into documentary at all. It was really, really great story to have heard. So back to recommendations. I have a interview recommendation in print, and that was on LitHub. It was Jeff Vandermeer on Ursula Le Guin, Tove Jansson, and Otessa Moshfegh. Really, really interesting interview. And then I have a video, which was from Elle Thinks. She did a great video on how books live in our memory, talking through the different experiences she had with books and how her emotional state kind of influenced books and her rereading experience. So yeah, really, really good stuff. Very great discussion on that one. So I think that's it for my week. I hope if you are celebrating, you don't overeat too much. I hope you have a good time off work if you've got a long weekend, and get some great reading done. Thanks so much for watching. Lenten fish fries are a huge deal here, and my favorite pho restaurant has an appetizer that is a Thai chili chicken, but during the Lenten fish fry season, they make a Thai chili cod, so I had to go get it before it ends because they don't have it any other time, and it looks amazing as always. And the vegan spicy lemongrass with extra Thai basil because it's my favorite. This is chock full of tofu and mushrooms. So good. Lots of good stuff, Coco? Yeah, we got lots of cat grass. Yay! Bo, you can't do that. Buddy. This is why I cannot have a fire in my fireplace. Goofball. You're gonna track yucky stuff out of there now. It's not gonna be so good. Coco, I didn't even put any catnip on there. He loves this brush arch. He will just rub on it all the time. Just going to town, huh? Look at that aggressive water beard. You love getting water on me, don't you? Yeah. Oh, good Coco boy.